Welcome to Widowed Too Soon. This is Michelle Bader, and I'm sitting here with my friend and co-host, Mark Massaro. How you doing, Mark?
I am doing excellent, Michelle. How are you?
I'm good. How is Tennessee treating you?
Tennessee is amazing. It is so beautiful. We had a huge snowstorm. Well,
Oh,
huge for me from being from Southern California. I don't know
yeah.
if the locals would consider it huge, but it was like, I think we got like 4 to 6 inches of snow within
Nice.
12-hour period. So that was awesome. It's gone. That was yesterday and it's gone today. So I
Well,
guess
that's
that's pretty normal for Tennessee.
wait, that's crazy because yesterday it snowed in Louisiana
Oh,
and during
uh-huh.
the day, and then it melted at night. I mean, not that
Oh,
you're close.
really?
I mean, you're relatively close, but they had like a
Yeah,
cold,
it's
weird
pretty
cold front
close.
too. And it like got down and snowed and then it got back up into the 70s. Is that kind of like what it was like for you?
So it was interesting because I think we had a high of 80 the day
Oh,
before. It was
wow.
pretty warm the day before. Then yesterday, our high was 34
Oh
degrees.
my gosh. It's
And
crazy.
it was snowed and it was really cold, but it was weird. It's not cold like from where I was from in California, like Elsinore, it was like a high desert. So when
Right.
it was cold, it felt like bone chilling cold. But for some reason, the cold here, it was just so fresh. And I just had like a hoodie on when I was outside. I was
Nice.
working in my garage trying to set up. And um, so anyways, yeah, it was like, oh, this is like nice. It feels like fresh
So fresh
but
and so clean.
so fresh and so clean.
It was in my head. I had to. Sorry, go
Oh, that's
ahead.
awesome. Nobody's as dope as me. I feel so fresh and so clean.
Is that the word?
Um, so I love it here. My kids
Oh,
are in school. They each got to go on a field trip down to the high
nice.
school, and
Aw.
the high school put on a play for them.
Oh.
Stuart Little.
Oh, I love that. So cute.
It was, I can't even tell you how big of a blessing it's been for me because I was trying to homeschool my kids.
That's hard.
Um, it was really hard for me. It was really hard. And I felt like I was failing them all the time. And
Hmm.
I was trying my best, but like, it just seemed like there was always something that I just felt like I wasn't able to push them. And it was also interesting because like they weren't able to separate the border or the boundary from daddy and teacher.
Right. Yeah.
They were constantly asking me, can we take a break? Can we have
Mm-hmm.
something to eat? Can we have a snack?
We have for snack.
And it was like, it was just, I don't know how
Yeah.
to say it other than I just felt like I was failing them.
Hmm.
And that was a big motivation for me moving here. Because, I won't get into the specifics too much, but like, I didn't want my kids to go to school in California with the way everything is.
Right.
And I'll just leave it at that. But here it has just been incredible. Their teachers are great. They love us
Hmm.
already. They were so excited to meet us. Every day I pick up my kids, they come running to the car and they just are both talking over each other, trying to tell me about how great their day at school was. And then I'm finally getting to be dad for the first time
Oh,
in
so awesome.
years. And it's, I'll just be honest. I'm almost in tears every day I pick them up from school because it has been such a blessing to move here. And I'm so glad that I listened to God's calling on our
Mhm.
life because it was scary. It was scary to sell my house that I
Right.
absolutely loved and to move across the country away from pretty much everybody I know. Um, but gosh, I just felt so strongly like this was the call. And I am so happy that I
Mm.
did. It has just been, oh my gosh, it has been such a burden off of me, not only moving away from that house,
Right.
but being able to give my kids a normal life. And now I pick them up and we go to the park and there's
Mm.
lots of kids there and they're playing. And it's just, I feel like normal for the first time. And
So
since
happy.
Lacey got diagnosed in 2019, this is the first time that
Wow.
my life feels normal. And I can't even tell you what a joy I feel in my heart right now. And,
Mm.
of course, there's a part of you that always wishes that things were different, but we can't do
Right.
that. We can't
Exactly.
do that. We can't wish things were different because they're not.
Hmm.
And, you do the best you can with what you got. And that's sort of the way to be optimistic about anything in life is you do the best with what you have.
Right.
And strive for more, but
Mhm.
like, so I was striving to find joy in life again. And even though I'm a really happy person and I'm pretty joyful in general, there was a deep part of my soul that was hurting, that I don't share with people, that I don't show to
Mhm.
people. And it just feels like it's, and I want to say magically, but I know it's God, but like, it's
Totally.
just magically gone.
I love
This
it.
huge, like, weight on my shoulders of like, I am screwing up my kids' lives and I'm trying my
Oh,
best, but I'm just not able to push them the way that they need to be pushed. I'm not a teacher. I didn't do well in school. I don't know how school is supposed to be structured. There's
right.
just so many things that I was just trying my best. And now it's like the principal came up to me the first day of school, and she, the lady at the front desk messaged her and said, "Hey, the Massaros are here, that family you wanted to meet."
Oh,
And she
wow.
just comes running out from the office and shakes my hand with a huge smile. And she's like, "We are so happy you guys are here. I was so excited to meet you guys. I just want you to know your babies are in good hands. We're going to
Oh.
take care of them, and we're going to give them anything and everything they
Mhm.
need. We have," and she kind of like lowered her voice to just be talking to me. She's like, "We have grief counseling. We
Mm.
wanted, anything your kids need, like, we are here for you." And I was just
Wow.
like, oh my gosh, like, I'm not even joking. I was like crying. I was like, thank you.
Oh.
So
Oh,
yeah, to
so
answer your
sweet.
question, this has been like
Wow.
the biggest joy I've felt in a long time. And it's, there's a part of me that feels like this is, God taking my boat to the other side. And I feel like
Mm.
I hit shore. For a couple
Mm.
weeks leading up to this move, I was like, I can see land in sight. And now I feel like my boat hit the shore, and like God's like restoring my life.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's so sorry, long answer to a short
No,
question, but
he
I
is.
love it. I love
that-
it.
That's so amazing. He is a God of restoration, and it's something you can't really explain. And if you're not there yet, listeners, like, hold on. God can
Hmm.
restore what was broken, like your broken heart, and make it better. Like it's a
Yes.
crazy feeling. Like, whoa, how am I so joyful? How am I able to find joy in life? It's God. It's completely God. It's like this,
Yes.
the peace that passes all understanding. And I want to
Yes.
go back to talking about the school because listeners could probably relate to this. So did you, and I think from what you said you did you let the school know your situation, that, their mom had passed away? And
I had to, because
I think it's good.
there were things on the forms that, mom
Right.
was supposed to fill out too. And
Right.
it was kind of interesting because the lady at the front desk, real sweet lady, she said, "Hey, so do you have, like, I know you have the kids primarily yourself. You have custody or whatever." She's like, "Is there
Mhm.
any like documentation to support it though?" And I was like, "You mean like a death certificate?" And she's all, "Oh, no,
Oh
no,
my
no, no, no,
gosh.
no. We don't need
We don't
anything
need them
like
for
that.
that.
No, I got you. I got you. I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
Oh,
I thought it was some kind of like, your
yeah.
spouse like went away on,
Hmm.
like got in trouble or something like that. Wasn't
Right.
have, and she's like, "No, I don't need anything then." And I
I
was like,
think
"Oh, okay." And so yeah, they did find out
I
pretty
think that's
early
good.
on. Yeah,
That's
no,
so
honestly,
they can
that's
be sensitive to the kids when there's like Mother's Day projects or,
right.
whatever.
Yeah, and they
Um,
have been extra loving to, it was interesting. I heard I was at the park with the kids the other day, and a group of like older kids came up, like they were probably, maybe mid-teens,
mhm.
something 15, 16, something like that. And Alexis went up and started talking to the girl, of course,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
so the girl, it was funny because they were like, they came up all cussing, and
Oh wow.
they were just being loud and obnoxious and kind of pushing each other, and running up the playground like super fast, and whatever. They were being older kids. I did the same stuff when I was their age,
Yeah.
so I was just trying to, like, just be careful of the kids, guys, like,
Yeah.
they're little, but when Alexis went up and talked to the girl, all of a sudden she got like super sweet. The girl that was like
Oh.
cussing a minute ago, she just became like this total like big sister to Alexis, and was letting her tell all of her stories. And they were kind of far, they were probably 50 yards away from me, so I couldn't hear what they were talking
Yeah.
about, but I could tell from the body language that the girl was being really nice to Alexis.
Oh.
So one of the boys went over there and was talking with them for a minute, and then he jumped off that little playground thing that Alexis was talking to the girl on, and he ran up to the other playground. He's all, dude, that little girl just said her mom died of cancer. He's like, dude, I feel so bad for her.
Oh,
And I'm like, oh, like, but like, they didn't know who I was. I was just
Yeah.
another parent
Right.
around the park. So they didn't know that the one who could hear them was
yeah.
the one who lost his wife. So later on, after we had to leave and go home and eat dinner, and I went up to the girl and I just said, hey, like, thanks for talking to her and being so nice to her. And she was like, oh, she's so sweet. And I don't know, it was just kind of a cool experience, that, but it was kind of interesting just hearing the kid run up and tell his friends, like, and it just kind of made me realize, like, yeah, wow, this is a pretty crazy thing that happened to us. It's pretty unique. And us, you and I being so involved with widows and widowers, we realize how many there are out there. But when we're in like the normal world, so to speak, we kind of remember how like rare it is, what happened to us,
Exactly.
So anyway, it's just kind of interesting side note there. I don't know the point of it.
No, that is interesting.
Something that happened.
That does not surprise me about Alexis. I love how she can talk to anybody and everybody, and she just says how it is. And she's a light. Like, she's such a light. Like, God is going to do big things through that beautiful little girl. Like, I just know it. Like,
I agree.
Just that, she just shines and just seems to be such a reflection of Lacey. And like an amazing thing that God is letting like Lacey's legacy live on through your kids.
Yes.
And specifically right now with, how old Alexis is and stuff. It seems to
Right.
be like right now you can see it in her. I know you'll see it in Luke too, as he gets older. But it's just such a beautiful thing. Just, you can see it all over her face. Like, God has given her indescribable peace, and he's given her a gift of like being able to just talk to anybody. Like, most kids her age are like afraid to talk to older kids and like all of that, and she's not. And so I'm excited to see what God does in her life and Luke's life. And just
me too, Michelle. It's I know, and not just because they're my kids, but she is a very unique and special little girl. And I know I'll see that more in Luke as he gets older too. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a brilliant and sharp little kid. He's very smart and very polite and loving. But he's a little more shy, and Alexis, but she was shy at that age too, a little bit, but she just blossomed into this, wants to talk to anybody. It's funny with Luke is his first day of school, the kindergarten teacher, or not the first day of school, the first day where they said, yes, they're enrolled, they start tomorrow. So we went down there to meet the teachers, and the kindergarten teacher came in and she's like, hi, Luke. I won't say her name just for privacy, but I'm Miss So-and-so. And he's all, hi, how old are you?
Oh my gosh, of course he would say that.
I'm all, you don't ask ladies that. Like, but he just asks everybody that. He's like, how old are you?
That's awesome.
But yeah, they're
friendly,
beautiful,
amazing kids.
They're so unique. Like, they're so unique. Alexis is just such a loving soul. And you're right. It's like minus the like, companionship and the actual person of Lacey, I still feel like Lacey is with me because of all the things I see in Alexis. I woke up this morning at like 6 a.m. and then I was super tired, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go back to sleep. I usually get up, but I was like, I'm going to go back to sleep. So I woke up and Alexis had gotten up. And when I come downstairs, she had made me a cup of coffee.
Oh, sweet.
She made a fruit salad for herself and me. I mean, her brother, herself, and me. And she's like, she always asks me, Daddy, you've been working so hard. Can you take a break and can we play spa? You can be the customer.
Oh my goodness.
And they like,
so adorable.
They want to like give me massages. And, like,
I love it.
Which is like her like walking on my back, which is incredible. And then Luke will like punch my feet. Like, this is just like, that's their idea of like what helps Daddy relax, but I just let them do it. But so anyways, I feel like I get to see Lacey's heart every day, and that's
awesome.
I love it so much. She trained her to be that way. She trained her to talk to people, You'd go into the grocery store and she's like, ask her how her day is. Ask
Right,
her what
that's
she
great.
likes. Like she taught her how to like that you're supposed to talk to people and you're supposed to interact with people. And yeah, it's really cool. So anyways, sorry. Go
No,
on.
don't be sorry. And even how she looks, from what I've seen from pictures, don't you feel like does she starting to look more and more like her as she gets older?
There's a lot of me that I can see in her. So like if I look at Lacey's like pictures from that age, there's resemblance, but it's not as like, whoa, she's like a spitting image. Like you see some people with their kids,
Yeah.
But there's certain times when she looks a certain way. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you look exactly like mommy, like certain facial expressions.
Yes.
Things like that where I'm just like, oh my gosh, you are like a mini version of your mommy. And I love it. I love that so much. But I wish she looked totally like Lacey because you know what I mean? I mean, don't get me wrong, Alexa's a very beautiful girl, but Lacey was stunning. And if they have to take any of my looks, I feel bad.
No. So when it was just a few weeks after Luke passed away, I was like, so Haley and Hayden, the oldest two, they have their dad's eyes, like brown, just like exactly like I'm talking to Haley and I start crying. She's like, what? I'm like, your eyes look like daddy. She's like, do you want me to close them? Like, no. And it happens with Hayden, like, he's almost 18 and he's looking more like his dad every day. And
he looks a lot like him.
Yeah. And I knew Luke at that age. And so it's because we were in high school together. So
yeah,
it's
I forgot about that.
Weird
or, just didn't make the connection that
like,
he's that age now.
I know. So it's kind of cool just that.
I know,
right? Thanks. Which friend
Sorry, I had to call you.
I can't remember what friend said that.
Chris.
I was like, I don't remember who said it. Thanks, Chris. Anyway.
He's probably dying laughing right now.
Yes. Well, I'll share a little bit about like what's been going on, then we'll dive into the topic.
Yeah, what have you been up to?
It's been an exciting couple weeks. So sorry we were off for a week, but I was in Florida celebrating my birthday with my boyfriend. So
happy birthday, Michelle.
Thank you. 29. Thank you. 29 again every year. 29. And it was the most amazing. I mean, it was fantastic, getting to be in Disney World, which I'd never been to, on my birthday with the man I love, and just like, is this my life? just reflecting. I'll tell you where I was 2 years ago on my birthday. Luke was 2 months away from passing away, and we were I remember we went to lunch for my birthday, and we're just both bawling because I'm like, this is my last birthday with you, and just that's knowing it's coming, which I know you get, knowing it's coming, and that feeling. I was explaining this to Joel on my birthday. He's like, I can't even imagine what that's like, that feeling, knowing that person's dying, and just such a place of sadness and sorrow. And to now be 2 years later in a complete, like I'm literally in Disney World on my birthday. 2 years ago, of course, I could never picture. I didn't even want to ever date again after Luke. Like that, when you're so in it, you can't see it. Like you don't even want to think about that. And so just crazy, like how much God can heal and restore, and like, still love Luke, but love Joel, and the whole thing we talked about many times. And just being in Disney World on my birthday, I was just like so thankful and so grateful. And we got to go to the beach, and there were just like so many great moments. And just really, when you're long distance, it's difficult. So whenever you get time together, it's like so precious to be actually able to just quality time, not just the screen on your phone, but actually with someone.
Yeah, able to hold hands or whatever. Yeah.
Yes, it's like so much better. So that was amazing. I was in Florida for that. And originally the reason I was going was for John Maxwell certification. So that was an amazing conference where I'm officially like certified in speaking, coaching, training, and I'm just really getting more of like just a vision for where I'm going. I have my first speaking event on Tuesday. So the day this comes out, I'll be having it that night. So excited about that. We have 6 speakers, and it looks like about 30 people coming. So just an event in our area about not only surviving grief, but thriving through grief. I wrote my speech today. I'm so excited about it. So just like really taking this focus of where I want to go. And so the conference helped me with that. And then the other exciting thing is my nonprofit Widow Goals is officially started. So we are filed with the state of Washington. I'm like so excited. And so now Whoop, whoop. The next step is to start getting funding and then being able to service widows and be able to visit them. And yeah, so it's super exciting.
Yeah, so I'll just throw this out there now. If anybody out there knows of like, if your church is like looking to like support any kind of ministries or anything like that, think of, Michelle's ministry that, your church can reach out and help other widows through this ministry. So if you know somebody who is able to help with funding or anything like that, or has any ideas that wants to help, like, please reach out and let us know.
Yeah.
Because, I'll be asking my church when I get to know them a little bit, if they're, if they like sponsor outside ministries and things like that, because it is a good ministry, and it'll help a lot of people.
I'm so excited about it. Like, just to share the vision with all of you who are widows, like we have this vision of it not only being in my area, we're talking to Mark about, his area, and then like all over, where it can be that let's say there's a new widow and they find our services. And so it could be, we bring them a gift basket, we talk to them. And then Mark came up with this amazing idea. Hello, like if they need like a handyman, like he could go fix things. Like, how many of you would have loved that when you were a new widow, or would love it now? Like, it's amazing, so we could have, and the point is that I'm going to be able to, through the organization, pay widows to visit the new widows. Like, whoa, like provide employment for widows and widowers. And you guys know when I say widow, it means widower as well. And then, like, let's say there's widowers and they need help with grocery shopping or making appointments or laundry or whatever. There's somebody there to help them. Like, this is so amazing.
Show them the ropes, like teach them and like fill in for the void that was left behind,
Yeah, and they don't have to.
I'll come mow your lawn or fix your garbage disposal or whatever.
Exactly. And they don't have to pay anything because it'll be funded through organizations and grants and all of that stuff. So that's a big vision, and as this gets more going, we may be talking to you more about that if you want to be a part of it.
Yes.
Well, right now it's an idea, but we'll keep you updated of like, okay, now we're ready to expand. If you want to be part of it, you can contact us and we can really get that going. So anyways,
widows helping widows.
That's right. So let's get into our topic today. This is called No Room for Guilt. I'm gonna say that again. No room for guilt.
Get out of here, guilt.
Get it. I'm gonna kick you. Get it. So, Mark, what does that mean to you? No room for guilt.
Well, part of it is, and it's funny, I've listened back to a couple of episodes that I realize that's how I start everything. I go, well,
I guess you do. That's okay.
So I think part of it is that we have so much on our plates already that there is no room for guilt. You need to get rid of guilt and like, don't let it in. Don't let yourself fill your head with crazy woulda, coulda, shoulda. We've all done it. Michelle and I used to, when we first met each other, we used to talk to each other about the woulda, coulda, shouldas. Well, if I would have just done this, maybe this, and what if I would have just done, you can't do that. God knows the day, the hour, the minute that they are going home, and there is nothing you could have done to prevent it. Also, there's a lot of people that feel guilty that maybe their last conversation was an argument, but you have to ask yourself, did he or did she know that I loved them?
Right.
And if the answer is yes, then it doesn't matter that you had an argument. I mean, you were going to have, if that didn't happen, you were going to have 150,000 more fights or arguments or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter that you were in the middle of a fight or, whatever it might be. We have many more examples, but I want to give you a chance to, talk about some of the examples, but, basically just that you have so much on your plate dealing with the loss, dealing with all the slack that you need to pick up, all the new responsibilities, the new life, that if you can get one of those things off your plate, like guilt, because guilt is a fabricated feeling that you're making up.
True.
And, I mean, I'm sure in certain circumstances I'm wrong and some people, legitimately feel guilty. I can't think of a particular example, but I just don't want to like shun anybody who really feels guilt and feels like they should feel guilt. Then that's a whole different conversation. That's you working on forgiving yourself. But for the most part, most of the things I hear are like, well, just again, not to give any more examples right yet, but just they're things that you're making up in your head
Mhm.
that are making you feel worse than you already feel, which is not a good recipe. So how about for you, Michelle? What is it? What do you think of? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, so starting in the beginning, I had guilt, because Luke suddenly passed away from a blood clot. And so the guilt was, what could I have done? And even when the doctor called me and we talked about it, she's like, there's nothing you could have done, like just that guilt and the guilt. And I know I talked about this in another episode, the guilt that I didn't kiss him goodbye. Like my kids kissed, but he wasn't even there. It was his body. But I for a couple days, I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't kiss him, but he wasn't even there. He was gone. So that didn't even matter. But it's just the weird guilt I was going through, and I should have spent more time, and just even guilt about, oh, I went on a trip when he was alive. I should have stayed with him, just all the stuff you go through your head, oh, I wish I would have spent more time, or I wish I wouldn't have done this. It's you got to let go of that, because it's not going to do any good for anyone. Guilt is just this extra weight. It's not from God. There's a different, there's a whole different, that's a whole different subject about conviction or whatever. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about guilt you put on yourself because you wish that you could have done something differently. You can't go back. And so the only thing that guilt and replaying those things over and over, it's just going to make you feel worse and worse and worse. You don't have time for that. All of a sudden you're a single parent, you got all these things, you don't have time for that. So that was one of the first things that I felt guilt about. And then for me, then the thought of dating, that was kind of, and we've done episodes about dating, but that was definitely one where I started, feeling guilt. The first time I had a conversation with a man, I was like, oh, this is weird. Because I was, almost married 17 years. And so it was that guilt, but we've talked tons about that, but letting go, you can still honor and love your late spouse, and you can date somebody else. So that was a big one. I felt guilt about selling the house that Luke and I bought together.
I remember that.
Yeah. And so actually he bought the house. So before we got married, he bought the house, and 3 months before we got married, and let me live in it while he still lived with his parents in the basement. He did that to save money. He was so smart with money. And so I lived there. So he actually bought it. So it was this whole thing. And before he died, a month before, he's like, it's a great house. It's going to be a great forever home for you and the kids. And so I already knew in my head that someday I wanted to move, but and so I had to let go of that guilt. He was like, this is going to be your forever home. But how I was able to be okay with that is well, it is because it provided the money. We had enough money to purchase another home. And so letting go of that, I remember signing the title and crying, and just I had to let go of that guilt. So moving, just there's all these little things that come up, but you have to release it and just release the guilt of what could have happened, what should have happened. And a lot of people have guilt about being happy. I don't feel like I ever really had guilt about being happy, but I know people have contacted me that they're like, I feel guilty because my husband died and I'm alive, and I feel guilty, or survivor's guilt. That's a real one too. Why am I here and they're not? And I just feel like all of these things are traps. There's no way to get out of it. It's you're going to replay these things over and over, and there's no solution except for just letting go. And I know that's easier said than done, but it's when you're holding on to it, you're just crushing something, and it's but when you release it, I feel like it prevents healing. So we're holding on to something so tightly, and God can't get in there to those cracks and all of the stuff where it's broken, because we have this guilt that's just covering us. If we can let go of that, he can come into those cracks and into those places and heal. But as long as we're holding on to the guilt, I don't think we can be fully healed. I think it's something that it's going to hold us back from being able to have a joyful life. And I feel like it's one of the things the enemy uses, guilt,
Yeah, I remember feeling guilty for laughing, or for, when I would be with people. I remember having this feeling of I feel like they're going to wonder why I'm not more sad.
Right.
Because, I was being eaten up inside. And of course,
right.
As we know, grief comes in waves. And for everything we had been through and how intense it was, the fact that I was even able to go out to somebody's house for dinner or something was just this whole new experience for me. because things were so intense beforehand. And so I was excited about it, but then, yeah, I'd be over there and sometimes, I just wasn't feeling it. I just didn't want to be out. I just wanted to be
Oh
alone
yeah.
with my sadness. But sometimes I felt like having fun, and then it would like haunt me that I'm like, are these people like thinking I didn't love her because I'm able to sit here and laugh and joke around like, a month after she passed away or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I just got to this point where I was like, they don't know. They're not in
Right.
my shoes. They can't possibly. And it's kind of like you and I have talked about before. Well, what am I supposed to do? Just roll over and give up
Right.
on life? Like, I mean, I proved that I wished things were different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so yeah, it's like, but there's so many things that people allow themselves to feel guilty about that you just don't need to, because God is a God of love and grace. And so
Mm-hmm.
when you're feeling guilt, you have to know that what Michelle's saying is true, that that's not from God.
Mm-hmm.
God would never want you to feel guilty or to feel horrible about yourself or to feel like a bad person.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's lots of guilt that comes with things. I honestly had guilt that I was like, how is it that me, the former drug addict, the guy
Mm-hmm.
who's eaten garbage food his whole life until I was with Lacey,
Mm.
who, whatever, I mean, the list goes on. I don't need to sit here
Right.
and make myself look terrible. But versus Lacey, who exercised, was healthy, grew up a very normal life, had loving, supporting parents. She always ate good meals, like, just all these lists of things, never did anything wrong. I mean, she
Right.
drank a couple times the whole time we were together, a handful, probably 10 times that she had a drink. Um, never did any drugs, never did anything. So I had this guilt of like, why did she get it and
Right.
I didn't?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I still here? Like what you were saying, like, this doesn't make sense. It should have been her carrying on and raising the kids, and I went home to heaven. That makes sense to me on paper. It would make sense to me. I wouldn't be happy about it. It would have made
Mm-hmm.
sense to me though if I was the one who got cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it didn't make sense to me why she did. She was
Mm-hmm.
always out hiking and active and exercising and eating well and always pushing me to try new vegetables. And it didn't make sense to me. And I had guilt over that. And also I had guilt because I was like, Lacey has a family that loves her.
Mm.
Like, I don't know how to say this without sounding like I'm feeling sorry for myself, but like,
It's okay.
just being real, that like, I don't really have family. Like, why couldn't the girl who had a lot of family that loved her,
Oh.
like, why couldn't she have stayed? Like, it would have been so much
Mm.
easier for so many people to accept me going home. And not saying I'm not loved or not cared about or anything
Right.
like that, but just, she comes from this big, beautiful family, and it would have just made more sense to me, I guess, is what I'm saying, but I don't know the reason, and I can't know the reason. And so I've decided I'm not going to feel guilty about that, because it wasn't like I chose. It's not like somebody put a gun
Good.
to my head and they said,
Right.
you or her, and I
Right.
said her. I would have chose me.
Right.
Um, so anyways, yeah, but there's very real things that we can feel guilt about that are, but you have to tell yourself. And I had to go through a phase of telling myself, like, no, this wasn't my choice, so I can't beat myself up about it. That doesn't
Mm-hmm.
make any sense. So I'm sure you can relate to that on some degree, not necessarily about the who got cancer, but just as far as
Mm-hmm.
the guilt of, like, surviving, so to
Right.
speak.
Right. And I was going to ask you, but you kind of answer that, like, how did you get through it? Was it just a matter of like talking, like you said, you just had to say to yourself, no, like,
Good question. Yeah. It kind of was this feeling that came over me of like, I realized that it was coming from me thinking what other people might think.
mm-hmm.
Um, and I kind of just decided that, yeah, it literally was like a decision. And so I'm sure it was with God's grace that I was able to do it. But yes, it was a very specific decision to not feel guilty about it, because there's nothing for me to feel guilty about, because it wasn't my choice. It wasn't something I decided or that I
Mm-hmm.
steered her towards, or, like okay, here's an example of somebody that I would understand them feeling guilty. I just thought of it right now. If somebody was a drug addict, let's say a husband was a drug addict and his wife had never done anything and he convinced her to try heroin and she died from it. Like, yeah, that would be a
right.
hard thing not to feel
Yeah.
guilty about and feel like it was your fault. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, there is a, just reflecting back to what I was saying earlier when I said I can't really think of a specific, that's an example where you would have to work on forgiving yourself.
Mhm.
And that's a hard thing to do, but it doesn't mean it's not possible. It doesn't mean God can't deliver you from that.
Right.
But that would be very difficult. But I wasn't in that boat, so I can't let myself feel guilty.
Right.
I stood by her side and loved her and supported her and um cherished her every day of our marriage. And so I
Mhm.
know that, like, I tried my best to fix that situation. Did we make mistakes along the way? Sure.
Mhm.
But I know my heart was all about her and supporting her and what I thought was best for her at every moment. I prayed about everything. Um, she prayed about everything. So I'm like, I can't feel, because for us, like I've told you about, one of the things that I really struggled feeling, I wouldn't even say feeling guilty, but just wondering the what ifs, is she was terrified of chemo. She didn't do
Oh.
chemo.
Mhm.
She went with a natural holistic
Right.
route. And even though the chances of her surviving chemo and the chemo they wanted her to do and all this stuff was really intense and low probability rates and things like that. But you can't help but wonder, what if I convinced her to do chemo?
Right.
Because I think I could have. I don't know.
Right.
Honestly, I don't know. Lacey, when she had her mind made up,
Yeah.
she had her mind made up.
Yeah.
There was actually one time where I did tell her what about chemo because she wasn't able to do. She was having issues throwing up and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And I kind of suggested, what about chemotherapy? And she was like mad at me for even bringing it up.
Mm.
So, but there were other times where she wanted to do it, and she was like considering doing it or whatever. I don't remember the exact situation, but where I was the one telling her, like, no, like, this is working. This is working. Look at your PET scans. Like,
Right.
you're getting rid of the cancer. Like, you're still rolling the dice with chemo. And it did get to the point where she got healed enough, if you will, enough of the tumors went away that they actually changed the chemo that they recommended for her. They went
Wow.
to a more mild chemo. And so that was a thing at that point that we were considering, like, well, this isn't the one with like the almost guaranteed death sentence anymore.
Mhm.
Maybe we should consider it. And so, anyways, the whole point, I'm sorry, but the whole point of that was that, like, of course you wrestle with the, like, well, what if? Well, what if? But again, it comes down to God knew the day, God knew the hour, God knew the minute
Exactly.
that she was going to pass. No matter what I did, that was when she was going to
Yep.
go home, and God already knew that.
Yeah.
And so, there is no what ifs, because no, August 13th, 2020, at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon or whatever it was, that was when God called her home.
Right.
And so, anyways, yeah. So, yes, it is hard to not feel guilty sometimes, but you can't. You have to just remember that those are not feelings from God, and that was their time, as hard
Yep.
as it is. Anyways, sorry, that was a huge chunk of Mark
No,
time.
it's okay. It was good. Just curious when you said the 13th, and I thought about the day we're recording is the 13th, and how when we first met, that was like a big deal. Like on the days, we'd be like, oh, it's
Mhm.
exactly a month now, it's 2 months, or we met a little bit after that, but like it was like the day was a big deal. And like for me, I would go visit the grave every 23rd, and it was like a big deal. And now it can pass, and I'm like, oh yeah. I was wondering what
Mm.
it's like for you. Is it still like a thing you think of every
No, I
13th, or
mean,
is
it's
it?
been what, a year and 7 months
That
now. Let's
sounds
see,
about
September,
right.
October, November, December, January, February, March. Yeah, a year and 7 months now. So no, I don't. I mean, every now and then I think of it, but no, I don't like think about it every 13th and go, whoa.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, I'll think about it on the 1 year. Honestly, I didn't even notice that a year and a half had passed. Like
Right.
when I just did it right now, I'm like, oh, it's a year and 7 months. Not even, I
Right.
thought it would be a year and 6 months. Um, so no, I mean, it kind of doesn't matter. It's
Right.
like she's gone, and it doesn't matter how long it's been. because I'm just working on, and also because one of our listeners who I speak with, semi regularly, real nice girl, her 1 year is coming up. And so she was talking to me about it and asking me about how it was and stuff like that. And I told her the truth. I said, honestly, it was harder for me leading up to it than the actual day. The actual day was like, okay, like this is what I was like, so having such a hard time anticipating it was coming, I'm like, there's, just like any other day, she's still gone,
But you know what I remember about, because I reached the 1 year mark before you, and I remember we talked on the phone that day and you were like, congratulations, you made it a year. Like you made it through all the first.
So maybe that'll help our listeners, like kind of, if you haven't hit the year mark or you have, you can already say like, congratulations, I made it through all the first. If I did that, I can do anything. And so that was big to me and like a huge encouragement to me. And then I remember I did the same thing for you when it was your year, like, congratulations, you made it a year. It's like, we did it. Like we did this first year, and being able to just look at how far we've come. Like, cause I remember somebody recently had said something about the year coming up, or it just happened. And then I was like, congratulations, like you did it, And so anyways, that's kind of off this subject, but just hopefully that will
real though.
Help listeners too. It's like, you made it, like celebrate that you did it. And Mark and I, in our opinion, think that your first year is the hardest and the second is not, but some people have a different opinion, but that's what we think. So just from our experience, like, congratulations that you made it, and like not looking at the year mark as something to dread, but like, whoa, I did it. And everybody does it differently. Like, I know for you, it was a lot more low key. And like, for me, I had everybody over, we did balloons with messages. We had his last meal, which was grilled cheese. We watched a video, but that's how I wanted to do it. I don't see doing it like that, again, but I mean, I'll always acknowledge it, but I don't think I'm going to do like a party thing every year. So everyone's different, and there's no right or wrong way. Like, however, if you just want the day to go by and you don't want to think about it, that's okay. If you want to remember, whatever, it's great. That you can do it however you want. And then going back to no room for guilt. I mean, it really is, when you're sitting in guilt, you're only holding yourself back from the future that God wants for you, because he wants to give us life and life abundantly. And to not be, and that's actually, let me see if I can find it real quick. That's the verse for my nonprofit, is that God, I'm going to find the exact verse, that Jesus wants to give us life and give us life abundantly. Like, we weren't put on this earth to just like, all these things are going to happen and we're just going to survive until we go to heaven. Like, we were made to thrive. We were made to take these things that have been so painful and turn it into something good. Like, that's how I know you and I both feel like if we had to go through this, that's why we started this ministry, this podcast, is like, we want to help other people. And so if you're stuck in that guilt, you're not going to be able to give. You're going to be stuck in that place. And so God wants us, and I'll put that exact verse in the show notes, but to have life and to live life abundantly and to thrive. And so if you're sitting in that guilt, you're really not helping you're preventing yourself from being able to help other people. Like, for example, if Mark and I had stayed in that place in our grief and the guilt, and we would have been paralyzed from being able to do this podcast, which we know is helping other people. And you know what I love? Like, they talked about this at my John Maxwell training about like a domino effect. Like, let's say we weren't able to get past it. We didn't do this podcast. Well, then we wouldn't have helped someone else who's listening, who we know has helped someone else who's helping someone else. Like, it's huge, the domino effect. And so think about that for yourself. If you stay in that guilt and you don't move forward. Now, remember, we move forward, not moving on. Wait, did I say it right? Wait, move forward, yes, not moving on. That's it. So we move forward. We never move on from ourselves. We will always love them, but you're going to be stuck in that place of not being able to move forward if you stay stuck in your guilt. And so finding ways to get past that, even silly illustration, but it works. Like, whatever you feel guilty about, write it on a piece of paper and burn it. Like, something physical,
or cross it off.
Or cross it off. Well, like burning. Burning's fun. Rip it up, like whatever, to illustrate that it's gone, And I would highly recommend that to you, because the guilt is going to hurt you and it's going to stop you from your purpose in life.
And I looked it up for you. It's John 10:10. I have come that you might have life and have it more abundantly.
Yep, that's it.
And also I'll put the link in the show notes. There's a song that I've chosen as my song for my what's it called? Widow
Theme song?
Goals. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if people choose songs, but I'll tell you how it came to me. Like I was driving and a song came. I was thinking about how we're made to thrive and all this. And there's a song called Thrive by Casting Crowns that came on. And it's basically the chorus is like, we were made to thrive more than just survive. We were made to thrive. And it's like, that's what I want you guys to get today. Like, I know in the beginning it is just survival, but that's not where you're going to stay. Like you're going to get past that. And you're going to be able, there is a survival mode, but that's not where we were meant to stay. We were meant to like get back up again.
Definitely. And it's like I talked about with you about possibly doing an episode about this, but I just it's on my heart to like encourage people that whatever you're going through, there are seasons of life and you're in a season, and some seasons last longer than others, but no matter what you're going through, it's a season.
Yeah.
Because you have to remember that, like, yeah, while your world feels upside down right now, like it won't feel the same in 2 years. And it definitely won't feel the same in 4 years. And compared to eternity, 4 or 5 years, that's a blip of time. That's nothing.
Right.
Compared to eternity. And so God knows stuff that we don't.
Yep.
Of course. And so I just want to encourage you that, like, no matter how dark it is right now, it's still, you're in a season. I mean, all of us can, most all of us are old enough. I know there's a few that are younger, per the things I can see in the, audience or whatever. But most all of us have completed high school. And, you remember when a girl or a guy broke your heart and you thought your world was over. Like, do you care now? Like, now, don't get me wrong. That doesn't apply if your husband was your high school sweetheart. But you know what I mean? Most people, that's not the case. So I remember, a girl from high school age cheated on me. And like, my world was over. I was like, my life is over. And now I'm like, I don't even care. Like, I'm so glad that happened, and obviously not that we will feel I'm glad that happened with this.
Right.
But it was a season. And I just want to remind you that I know it's difficult for a lot of people. And we had a really hard to hear message from somebody that, was having a very difficult time and maybe didn't want to go on in life. And so I just want to encourage you that if you are, having a hard time with this, just please remind yourself that you just got to get through this hour by hour and day by day, because it's a season. And as winter comes and there's blizzards and storms, that the summer is coming eventually, and the snow will all be gone, and the spring obviously is first, but you know what I mean. That the snow will be gone, the storm will be gone. All those people that were in Texas when it froze over and like everybody lost their power and gas, and it was a very tough event, but the season passed, and I just drove through Texas and there wasn't any snow in sight. And so I just felt encouraged to remind people of that on top of like the guilt stuff we're talking about, to just please remind yourself that while it's hard, it's a season and you will get through it. And to just keep going at it one day at a time, one hour, one cry at a time. You get your tears out there, you cry, you do it. And then it helps you. You get a little bit easier, a little bit less tears.
Yep.
And just know that as time passes, this will get easier. We want to encourage you in that. Michelle and I can't stress that enough, that it gets better.
Yes. And I was actually talking to a new widow today, and I said, it's like this, and I know I said this before, but I'll repeat it. Losing someone is like an amputation, like part of your body is gone. You will always miss it, or miss him or her, but you'll learn to live without them. And so you adapt, but you'll always miss them. It's like part of you will always be gone. Even if you get remarried, you're still going to have part of you that's always gone. And so I think that's a great way to look at it. And Luke was actually an amputee, so it's very easy for me to like picture this and know what that looks like. But it's true. You're not going to always, that's what I was trying to explain to her. Like, your pain is going to get less intense. Like I
Mhm.
know it's crazy intense, and every time she would talk to me, she'd get teary. And I remember that. I remember that first
Yep.
month, just
Yep.
like you couldn't talk about anything without getting teary.
No,
And
it was your world.
yeah, I mean, I
It
remember
was
like
your absolute world.
crying every day. Literally, I remember like the first time I got through a day and I was like, I didn't like maybe it was a couple months in. I don't know, like, whoa, I didn't cry today. Weird.
Mm,
And
nice.
then it got less and less often. And now I still cry here and there, but not so much grief cry, just some an emotional
Crying
girl
for the
cry.
kids or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have my moments. I have my moments too.
Mhm.
It got, it causes me tears sometimes when I think about it. But it's like you said, it's not as intense.
Mhm.
It doesn't consume you. It's not the like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is my life, like,
Right.
because I listen to Pastor Greg Laurie a lot. He's a
Mhm.
real big pastor in Southern California. And I used to listen to him a lot more, but he lost his son tragically in a car accident. And I remember something he said that always stuck with me is he said, he talked about things not to ask those that are grieving.
Mm.
And one of the things he said, don't ever ask is, so are you over it yet?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And he's all, because you never get over it ever. You learn
Mhm.
to live with it.
Yeah.
And there is a lot to be said about that. You learn
Right.
to live with it. And in learning to live with it, you also automatically learn to accept it.
Yep.
And that is where aside from it obviously coming from God, but like earthly, that is where your healing comes from, is the true ability to be able to accept it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So kind of random, but grief moments. It reminded me. So I had a grief moment I was not prepared for. We walk into Disney World and it looks so much like Disneyland
Mhm.
that it brought me back to, we were able to take that one of like Luke's last wishes. We got this free trip to Disneyland and I was just flashback. I felt like I was there. And I'm remembering Luke with the scooter and just the pain he was
Mhm.
in. And then like walking through the gates and like Joel's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm just having a grief moment. He's very good at like respecting that and like, do you want to talk about it? And like,
that's awesome.
yeah, it's really awesome. And I'm like,
Good job,
like,
Joel, if you're listening. That's
yes,
awesome.
yes, he always listens. So like, just I was not expecting it. Like those moments can come, and it was like I was brought back to being there. It wasn't even the same place, but it looked so much like that. And just remembering that trip and the good moments, the bad moments, how much pain Luke was in, like all of it just came rushing back. And then, I was quiet for a little bit, and Joel was very sensitive, but then he was like, I feel like you're shutting me out a little bit. And I'm like, I'm sorry, like, I can, but he's like, whatever you want. But he was very like sensitive to that. Cause sometimes you can feel yourself retreating and just like you're in the memory and like, how do I deal with this? So I was able to just kind of talk through it with him. But just, yeah, grief moments can happen anytime.
And also there was probably a part of you, I would imagine, that didn't want to be having the grief in that moment, because you were there with a very special man to you. And
yeah,
you didn't want to, so to speak, ruin it with your grief moment or what, you know what I mean? Like, so I'm sure that it was part of you that was not necessarily shutting him out, but just not wanting it to be so.
Right.
And so, yeah, I don't know, but that's cool. That's really cool that he's that intuitive and sensitive to be that way, having not gone through it before.
Exactly.
And I know that he, of course he's a grown man. He's been through things in life, of course.
Right.
But, there is something unique about going through being widowed. But the fact that he is so good at figuring out your needs and being sensitive to your needs, it's really impressive. It's not a lot of people have that skill set to be so understanding, and it just shows like his heart for Christ. I just love that.
Right.
So shout out Joel. Good job, man.
Shout out to Joel.
I can't say dude anymore. I'm not from California, but I want to say good job, dude.
You can still say it. So he also later on in the day was like, how are you doing? I'm like, good. He's like, with your grief, are you doing okay? I'm like, yeah,
wow.
like I forgot about it. Like, thanks. Like,
that's amazing.
Very, very, very sensitive to anything about Luke and my grief and all of that. So
everybody give it up for Joel. That's awesome.
Yeah, shout out.
That's super cool.
Which is another point like, do not date someone. I've said it before, but I gotta like reiterate this. Do not date someone who's not okay with you talking about
Yeah.
your late spouse, with you having grief. Like, they need to know. I mean, I feel like recently somebody sent me a message and talking about, oh yeah, like their person like really doesn't like them talking about their, I mean, just stuff like that. Like, doesn't like them talking about their late spouse and how do I deal with this, and
Mhm.
all of that. So
Well,
that's-
I get that. I understand how somebody who's never been through it would feel
Mhm.
that way, but like, yeah, for me, that would be like, well, sorry.
yeah,
Like, that's my kid's mom. That was like,
exactly.
she was half of my life almost. Like,
Yeah,
and if you don't want to hear about her, then you're not going to know me,
right. Yeah.
And so if you don't want to know me, if you want me to like tiptoe around the most important part of my life to date, then like, you're not worth my time,
right. And it is,
And
go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, and if they have jealousies or anything, like, that is gonna be a huge red flag to me.
Yeah,
Like, there's no reason to ever
right.
feel jealous over my spouse who's in heaven. And if they do feel that
Exactly.
way, it's just gonna be like a really insecure person that
Mhm.
I don't want to be with anyways,
Right. What I was going to say is it is an interesting combination when one of you is widowed and one of you is divorced. And
Mhm.
so it is different. Like,
It's okay for me to have pictures up,
of Luke, but it would not be okay the other. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just little things that it's different.
I
And you
mean,
have
I
to-
suppose though, if he still wanted to have pictures of her in his kids' rooms, or
Oh
because that's
yeah,
still
of
mommy,
course. Yeah, of course.
But I see what you're saying. It would be different because,
like
yeah, for
wedding
me, I'm like,
pictures, like
yeah,
that
yeah.
would be
But
weird to
to
me.
be honest, like, I mean, I will always keep those and treasure them.
Oh
But
yeah,
I'm wondering if, I mean, just to be honest, just to put it out there, there's my own personal thing, but we try to be very open with people and transparent. But like, I'm going through this wondering if I want to put my wedding pictures back up on the wall.
I know I didn't.
Really?
No, so
And
like,
it's nothing to do with,
no,
of course, like loving her any less, but it's just like,
that's not where I'm at. Yeah,
is that healthy for me to do that? It's kind of
right.
more of the thought
So
process.
what I noticed is
I want
like,
pictures of her up
yes,
for the sake of my kids, of course, and for me to remember. But the wedding photos, I was just like, I don't know. Like,
yeah,
this is,
I'll
I don't know if
explain.
this is healthy for me. It's like I'm holding on to something that
Yes.
can't be anymore.
So I felt like I almost at one point had a shrine to Luke, and I was like, this is too much in my old house. And when I moved, I only put a fraction of the pictures back up. And then I did not, our big main, it was in our living room with all the signatures, like at our wedding. I did not, it's in our garage. I did not put it back up. And not because I don't love him. I just was like, kind of what you're feeling, like, this isn't where I'm at anymore. But I have other pictures of him up, but definitely less. And then like, I have pictures of Joel in my room, like in frames, but I haven't yet like put them out in the house. Like, I don't know, like kids are gonna feel about that yet. But like, yeah, it's interesting. And that does not mean that we love our spouses any less, that we don't have our wedding pictures up. I mean, I do have some in my room, wedding pictures, but
yeah.
I didn't put
I mean,
the
there's
main
just
one up.
certain things. Like, so on our wedding day, a friend of mine who's an artist, she drew us this beautiful picture on a beach in an ocean with a sailboat, and it said Mark and Lacey, April 26, 2008. And I've always had that framed and hung on my walls.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do I hang that anymore?
Right.
I don't think I do,
Right. It's what you feel.
And it's like, I want to still have pictures of her on the wall because I don't want to ever forget, and I won't ever forget, but you know what I mean? But like, yeah, it was just kind of like the wedding photos, the ones that the kids don't really have any attachment to. I feel like those need to go in a photo album, or just, still in the frame, but like put away, kind of a thing. And it's just because I'm just not there anymore, because I can't be there anymore. I can't be in that point in life anymore. And I want to be, I still want to be married to her with all my heart.
Right.
But, I don't know. It feels like it'd be kind of unhealthy for me to make the choice to rehang every photo and every memorabilia I had in my old house I don't know. It's just something I hadn't really thought about till
Right.
right now as I'm like starting to hang pictures.
Yep.
As I was like, wait, do I put these back up? Is this like weird? Am I being obsessive? Am I trying to, you know, prolong healing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just interesting. I never thought about it. I mean, I've carefully packaged every frame,
Yeah.
anticipating that I was just going
Right.
to hang them on the other end.
Yeah.
And now I'm here and I'm starting to hang pictures and I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what I do yet,
Interesting.
but for the sake of the kids, of course, and
Yeah.
for me to see them also, I enjoy seeing our pictures.
Yes.
So there's certain ones that I'm just absolutely in love with and they're not going anywhere. One of them is from our wedding, that I love the picture. It's just, I'm looking at the pastor as he's marrying us and she's just gazing at me. And I love it. It's like my favorite picture in the whole world. And so that's not going anywhere, but I'm just saying, like, I have this big framed thing that has multiple photos from our wedding.
Right.
And I'm like, that just doesn't feel right to put up anymore,
Yeah. It's a personal decision.
So it is a person. That's what I was just going to say. It's a personal choice and I have to make the decision for me, not for my kids, not for, anybody else, what anybody else might think, but just that I know my heart. I know how much I adore her. Doesn't mean because I don't hang her pictures. It's because I'm seeking healing,
Exactly. Yep. That's good.
So,
Good.
yeah.
Do you have anything else to say about
Nope.
No Room for Guilt? No.
I just wanted to say in regards to seasons change
Mhm.
that it's been so long since I found you, yet it seems like yesterday.
Oh my gosh.
Seasons change.
You sent
hadn't
me that
sung a
song
yet
and I
this
was like, what is this? I started playing. I was talking to Joel. I'm like, I don't even know what this song is. Some song.
Yeah, I know.
Is it like
I
an
almost
80s
said
song?
listen at like the 140 mark. Oh, you'd
Oh.
recognize the song if you heard
Oh,
it. It was
okay. I just
huge.
listened to the first few seconds. I'm like, I don't even know what
Yeah,
this is.
no. Sacrifice tomorrow just to have you here today. No, doesn't ring any bells.
No.
I know somebody out there gets it.
Okay, I'll try
I
to
know
put that in notes.
our listener that messages me and tells me she gets all my references.
She'll
I'm
get
hoping
it.
I'll get a message from her because she said she's gotten every single one so far.
Nice.
So I'm like, that's cool.
It's more than me.
No, I'm such a dork that I was like, I haven't even sang a song this episode. And after we did the episode with Dwayne, I felt so stupid singing ever again. That guy has the greatest voice.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Remember he was saying that was it
shout out to Dwayne. It was
shout out to Dwayne. I like that guy. It wasn't an Elvis Presley song. Oh my gosh,
it was
it Elvis Presley?
I don't know.
I think it was Elvis Presley. He said his wife loved Elvis Presley.
Mhm.
I think that song was Elvis Presley, but I hadn't heard it before. But anyways, hey Dwayne, how are you? That's all. No, but I would just like to pray unless you have something
else
you want to add. Okay. Lord, I thank you so much for me personally. I thank you for this move. And I just want to publicly thank you for what you've done in my life. You're such a gracious and loving God.
Mhm.
And Lord, I want to pray specifically over Michelle's ministry, which, will lead to our ministry, but just right now for this event that she has on Tuesday, and that she would find funding for her nonprofit and that you would just bless this ministry tremendously with what you want to do with it. And we pray that you would use it as a vehicle to bring people to the Lord. And so I just pray that you would place your hand in that ministry and bless it. And Lord, I pray for anybody who's in a difficult season of life right now. I know we're all in a difficult season, but I pray just for anybody who's just getting rained on right now, who's under that thunder cloud, that you would just give them a feeling of the cloud passing over, and that you would allow the cloud to pass over and let their moments become fewer and less between. And Lord, I just, I pray for anybody feeling guilty, that you would lift that you would take that away, and that you would show them that they don't need to feel guilty, that it's something that they're creating themselves. And I pray that you would show them that and just give them the strength to say, no, I'm not going to feel that. I'm not going to allow myself to feel this. And, Lord, I pray, like I always pray privately, but I pray publicly, Lord, that you would give us words that we're dealing with sensitive topics. And I pray that you would give us the ability to never hurt anybody. That's never our intention, of course. And we just kind of talk. We don't have a script. And so I pray that you would give us words to not, hurt anybody who's already going through a hard time, and that you would allow them to show us grace if we ever do. And I pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Well, if you liked this episode, we'd love it if you give it a little bing, 5 stars. And actually, I thought about adding this. If you're not subscribed, make sure that you push subscribe, because then, if you don't know, then the podcast episodes go directly to your phone every time that we put them out. So you don't even have to worry about, did I miss an episode and going back? We'd love it if you do that as well. If you would like to be a podcast guest or just want to contact us, you can email us at widowedtoosoonm@gmail.com. As well as you can find us on Instagram and Facebook, all the places. Anywhere else I'm forgetting? Follow us. YouTube channel. We don't have a lot there, but we're going to add some more. And I feel like there's some other place they can find. Oh, TikTok, Widow Goals. It's really entertaining.
Email us.
We already said email.
Did you?
I think
Sorry.
that was like the
I'm
first
spacing
one.
out.
Yeah, you're spacing.
Did you?
out.
Oh,
Maybe because it's late there. Because
yeah,
now we're
when
not
I hear
on the
my
same...
kids making a ruckus in the background, and I'm just
all
tripping
good.
because I just cleaned their room today.
Oh,
Like got it like organized, for the first time.
Yes. But anyways, okay. I think that's all the
kids.
stuff. Yeah. But this was
I
good.
think so.
I think this is great. Let go of the guilt, people. Let it go.
Let it go. I knew it.
Oh, there we go. We sang in unison so beautifully. All right. Well, we will see you again next time, and have a fabulous week.
Peace out, G's.
Jeez, peace. Okay.